I believe and say that I was injured by the medical system, a psychiatrist in particular, that damaged me. And so the whole story is available in an article that I'm going to link called Cast Aside, Left to Suffer, Rosie's Story. It's an article written by Spencer Van Vloten. He's an editor for BC Disability. So basically, I have a rare genetic connective tissue disorder, and it has been diagnosed now, and I have a lot of health problems because of this condition. This condition is called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it causes weakened collagen, which is your body's glue. And I have, elastic skin like this, hypermobile joints that, sublux very easily, and, like I have the traits of Ehlers-Danlos. And so it shows up in your skin and bones and joints, but it also affects your heart and circulation, your autonomic nervous system, and neurological because of the spine, neurospinal, because the spine is overly flexible and can develop areas of instability. I'll go into that in a minute. It affects your GI system, like your digestive system, causing things like gastroparesis and intestinal dysmotility. It affects the bladder and urinary tract, and can cause like chronic UTIs and sometimes kidney infections. It affects the immune system because we are poor healers. We don't heal that well from infections, so we have problems with acute and chronic infections. All kinds of stuff, all because of collagen being too weak. So that's fundamental. So I have this, and I was born with it, but it did start to get worse after my 2 pregnancies. So this is indefinite, but instead of being diagnosed properly and believed initially, I was discriminated against and labeled with something very horrible that essentially blacklisted me from getting medical care. So part of the reason, in fact, most of the reason I think why I was discriminated against is because I'm on the autistic spectrum. I'm diagnosed. I'm more mature now, but 7 or 8 years ago when this first started happening, I was, less mature, and my behavior was obnoxious to them and quirky. And instead of accepting that I'm on the spectrum, even though I was diagnosed for a long time, they didn't want to accept it, which is really sexist of them. And yeah, it mostly was a sexism thing, I think, to be honest, but they wouldn't accept it even though I had been diagnosed by a neuropsychologist using childhood video footage that I had transferred onto CD, using learning tests and interviews with my family. Because I could socially perform, and I'm very verbal, or I'm not really that verbal, but at the time I guess I was more verbal. I'm not as verbal today. I have a hard time, especially talking about painful things that are traumatic, But anyway, I had this diagnosis, but they wouldn't accept it. And so I was talked into talking to a psychiatrist, and in short, this psychiatrist labeled me